The moon of Kestrus 4 was a dead place. No trees, no water, just endless gray dust and black rocks that stretched to the horizon. The sky above was dark purple, filled with the light of a dying sun. Tejo walked slowly across the rocky ground. His boots made soft sounds in the dust. Behind him, 3 other soldiers followed. They were all part of the Galactic Alliance peacekeeping forces. Their job was simple today: patrol the area, check for problems, report back to base. Tejo was 28 years old. He had short black hair and tired eyes. He was not a fighter by choice. He was a combat medic. His hands were trained to heal, not to kill. But in space, everyone had to carry a weapon. "Tejo, look at that," said Private Lee Gina. She pointed toward a hill in the distance. Tejo stopped walking. He looked where she was pointing. There was smoke. Black smoke rising into the purple sky. Something had crashed there. "Could be a meteor," said Sergeant Odesu. He was the oldest member of the team. His face was hard and serious. "We should report it and move on." But Tejo shook his head. "Meteors don't make that kind of smoke. That's fuel burning. Something with an engine crashed there." The team looked at each other. They all knew what this meant. They had to investigate. They walked for 20 minutes before they reached the crash site. What they found made them stop and stare. It was a ship. But not just any ship. The design was elegant and beautiful, even in its broken state. The metal was white and silver, with golden lines running along its surface. Tejo recognized the markings immediately. "Volition," he whispered. The Volisians were one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They had ruled their empire for thousands of years. Their technology was far beyond anything humans had created. They were also known for their pride. They looked down on younger species, especially humans. To them, humans were primitive creatures who had only recently learned to travel among the stars. A Volition ship? Here? Private Kim Hanna sounded confused. "This moon is in neutral territory. What are they doing here?" Sergeant O raised his weapon. "Doesn't matter. Stay alert. This could be a trap." Tejo moved closer to the wreckage. The ship had broken into several pieces when it crashed. Fires still burned in some areas. He could see bodies on the ground. They wore the silver armor of Volition Royal Guards. "They're all dead," said Gina. Her voice was quiet and sad. Tejo counted 7 bodies. All guards. All killed by the crash or by wounds that came before the crash. This ship had been attacked before it went down. Then he heard something. A weak sound. A breath. He ran toward the largest piece of the ship. Inside, among the broken metal and sparking wires, he found her. She was young, perhaps the same age as him in human years. But Volitions aged differently, so she could have been much older. Her skin was pale blue, almost white. Her hair was long and silver, spread around her head like a pool of moonlight. She wore robes of deep purple and gold. Royal colors. But what caught Tejo's attention was the blood. It was not red like human blood. It was silver, bright and shining, and it was everywhere. A large wound cut across her stomach. She was dying. Her eyes opened slowly. They were purple, like the sky of this dead moon. She looked at Tejo with confusion and fear. "Human," she whispered. Her voice was weak. "Don't talk," Tejo said. He dropped to his knees beside her and opened his medical kit. "I'm going to help you." Behind him, Sergeant O grabbed his shoulder. "Tejo, wait. Think about this. She's Volition. If she dies here, and they find out we were near her, they will blame us. Then I won't let her die," Tejo said simply. "You don't understand," O said. His voice was harsh. "The Volisians hate us. They think we are animals. Even if you save her, they will find some way to punish us. We should leave now and pretend we never saw this. Tejo pulled his shoulder free. He turned and looked at his sergeant with calm eyes. I'm a medic. I save lives. That's what I do. I don't care what species she is. I don't care about politics. She is dying, and I can help. That's all that matters. He turned back to the wounded woman and began to work, but his heart sank as he examined her wound. It was deep, too deep, and Volition physiology was different from human physiology. The medicines he carried would not work on her. In fact, some of them might poison her. This is bad, he muttered to himself. I don't have anything that can help her. The woman heard him. She reached up with a trembling hand and touched his arm. Her fingers were cold like ice. Then let me die, she whispered. You have done enough by trying. Go now, human. Save yourself from my people's anger. Ho shook his head. No, there has to be something I can do. He searched his memory. He had studied many species during his training. He had read about volition biology. There was something he had read once about emergency healing. What was it? Then he remembered. Blood. Volitions could absorb compatible blood directly into their bodies. It was an ancient method of healing, used only in desperate situations. The blood of another could give them the strength to regenerate their wounds. But there was a problem. This method was sacred to the Volitions. It was called the vow of eternity. When two Volitions shared blood this way, they became bonded forever. It was only done between married pairs or close family members. Te-Ho was not Volition. He was human. He had no idea if his blood would work. He had no idea what would happen if it did, but she was dying. And he had no other choice. He pulled out his knife. What are you doing? The woman asked. Her purple eyes went wide. Saving your life, Tejo said. He cut his palm. Red blood flowed from the wound. He pressed his hand against her stomach, where her own silver blood was pouring out. For a moment, nothing happened. Then she screamed. Her body arched off the ground. Light exploded from where their blood mixed, red and silver swirling together like fire and starlight. Tejo felt heat rush through his body. He felt something connect, something lock into place deep inside his chest. And then it was over. The woman lay still. Her wound was closing slowly, the skin knitting back together. Color was returning to her face. She opened her eyes and looked at him. But now there was something different in her gaze. Shock, horror, and something else. Something he could not name. What have you done, human? She whispered. Te-Ho did not understand her reaction. He smiled weakly, tired from the strange experience. I saved you. That's all. She shook her head slowly. Tears appeared in her purple eyes. No, she said. You have done far more than that. You have bound yourself to me forever. The vow of eternity cannot be broken. Not by distance. Not by time. Not even by death. Tejo's smile faded. Behind him, his team stood in silence. None of them knew what had just happened, but all of them could feel it. Everything had changed. The silence lasted for a long time. Tejo knelt on the dusty ground, his bleeding hand still pressed against the woman's stomach. She was staring at him with those purple eyes, and he could not understand what he saw in them. Forever? He finally said, What do you mean, forever? The woman pushed herself up slowly. Her wound was almost completely healed now. Where there had been torn flesh and silver blood, there was now only smooth blue skin. She looked down at herself with wonder and confusion. The blood ritual, she said quietly. The vow of eternity. It is the most sacred bond in Volition culture. When two people share blood this way, their souls become connected. They can feel each other's emotions. They can sense each other across any distance. and they cannot be separated. The bond lasts until death, and some believe it continues even after. Taeho felt cold fear spreading through his chest. I didn't know. I just wanted to save you. And you did, she said. She looked at him with a strange expression. You saved my life, but you also changed both of our lives forever. Sergeant O stepped forward. His face was pale. Taeho, what did you do? He performed the vow of eternity, the woman answered before Taeho could speak. She was now sitting up straight, her royal posture returning. This human has bonded himself to me. In the eyes of my people, we are now closer than family, closer than married couples. We are two souls sharing one thread of fate. Can it be undone? Gina asked. Her voice was small and frightened. The woman shook her head. No, never. The vow is absolute. To break it would mean death for both of us. Everyone was quiet again. Taeho looked at his hand. The cut was still bleeding. Red drops fell to the gray dust of the moon. Such a small thing, he thought. Such a small action. But it had changed everything. Who are you? He asked the woman. Why were you here? Why were you attacked? She took a deep breath. My name is Lyra. I am the youngest daughter of Emperor Doran of the Valesian Empire. The words hit the team like a physical blow. Private Kim Hanna took a step back. Sergeant O closed his eyes and cursed under his breath. A princess, Taeho said quietly. I bonded myself to a princess. Yes, Lyra said. She looked at him with unreadable eyes. And when my father learns what has happened, he will be very, very angry. Taeho laughed. It was a strange, tired laugh. Of course he will. Nothing in my life is ever simple. Despite the situation, Lyra felt the corner of her mouth twitch. Almost a smile. This human was strange. He had just learned that he had bound himself to alien royalty, that a powerful emperor would want his head, and he was laughing about it. You are not afraid? She asked. I am terrified, Taeho admitted. But being afraid doesn't help anything. I did what I did. Now I have to live with it. Lyra studied him carefully. He was not handsome by Valesian standards. His features were too rough, his skin the wrong color, his ears too round. But there was something in his eyes. A calmness. A strength. She had never seen a human up close before. Her people had taught her that they were emotional, primitive, and foolish. But this man was none of those things. We need to call for help, Sergeant O said. He was already reaching for his communication device. The Valesian Empire needs to know their princess is alive. Wait, Lyra said. She raised her hand. Before you do that, I need to speak with this man alone. That's not a good idea, O said. We need to... I am Princess Lyra of the Valesian Empire, she said. Her voice was suddenly cold and powerful. I am not asking for your permission. I am giving you an order. Leave us. O looked at Taeho. Taeho nodded slowly. It's okay. Give us a moment. The team walked away, but they did not go far. They stood about 30 meters away, watching and waiting. Lyra turned to Taeho. Her expression softened slightly. You truly did not know what the blood ritual meant? I only knew that it might save you, Taeho said. I read about it during my medical training. But the documents only mentioned that Valesians could absorb compatible blood for healing. They did not explain the rest. And you still did it? Without knowing what would happen to you? You were dying. I had to try something. Lyra was quiet for a moment. She was feeling something strange, something warm in her chest. It took her a moment to realize that it was not her own emotion. It was his. She was feeling his emotions through the bond. You feel it too, don't you? Taeho asked. He pressed his hand against his chest. Something here. something that wasn't there before. Yes, Lyra whispered. The bond is already working. I can feel your emotions. Your fear, your confusion, and something else. She paused. You feel guilty. I do, Taiho admitted. I have trapped you. I have connected you to a human, someone your people consider lesser. Your father will be ashamed. Your future is now tied to mine, and I am nobody. Just a soldier. A medic. Lyra reached out and touched his face. Her fingers were still cold, but they were gentle. Listen to me, human. Kang Taeho. You saved my life. Whatever comes next, I will not forget that. The bond may have been an accident, but the act that created it was pure. You gave your blood to save a stranger. That is not a small thing. Taeho looked into her purple eyes. For a moment, the universe felt very quiet. Very still. What happens now? He asked. Now we face the storm together, Lyra said. My father will rage. My people will be confused and angry. Your people will be afraid. But we are bonded. That means we must stand together, no matter what comes. She stood up slowly. Taeho rose with her. He noticed that she was taller than him by several inches. Her silver hair caught the light of the dying sun and seemed to glow. I have a question, Taeho said. Ask. The bond. You said we will feel each other's emotions. Will that go both ways? Will you feel everything I feel? Lyra nodded. Yes, over time, the bond will grow stronger. We will sense each other's pain, joy, and love. We will know when the other is in danger. Some bonded pairs even share thoughts. Taeho thought about this. His life had been full of hard moments. War, loss, loneliness. He did not want anyone else to carry those memories with him. I'm sorry, he said quietly. My emotions are not always pleasant. Lyra felt his sadness wash through the bond. It surprised her with its depth. This human carried great pain inside him, but he hid it well. I understand, she said. I have my own shadows. Perhaps we can help each other carry them. Taeho looked at her. For the first time since the bonding, he felt a small spark of hope. Sergeant O walked back toward them. We've made contact with Alliance Command. They're sending a rescue ship. The Volition Empire has also been informed. They are sending a fleet. A fleet? Taeho's eyes widened. For one princess? For a princess who was attacked in neutral space, Lyra said. And now for a princess who is bonded with a human. My father will want answers. And he will want to see you for himself. Will he kill me? Lyra was quiet for a moment. Taeho felt her uncertainty through the bond. She did not know. I will not let him, she finally said. The bond protects us both. If you die, I feel your death. My father loves me. He will not risk my life, but he will hate me. Perhaps, Lyra admitted. But hate can change. I know this because I hated humans once. I believed what I was taught about your kind. But you have shown me something different today. You showed me that humans can be selfless, that they can be brave, that they can love strangers enough to give their own blood. She reached out and took his wounded hand in hers. Red blood had dried on his palm. Silver blood stained her robes. The bond cannot be broken, she said. So let us not try to break it. Let us make it strong instead. Taeho squeezed her hand gently. He did not know what the future would bring. He did not know if he would survive the anger of an emperor. But he knew one thing. He was not alone anymore, and neither was she. 3 days had passed since the crash on Kestris 4. Taeho sat in a small gray room on the Alliance medical cruiser. The room had no windows. The door was locked from the outside. He was not a prisoner, they told him. But he was not free either. He sat on the edge of his bed and stared at his hands. The cut on his palm had healed, but he could still see a faint red line where the knife had opened his skin. Such a small mark for such a big change. Through the bond, he could feel Lyra. She was far away now, on a Volition warship heading toward the Empire's capital. But the distance did not matter. He could feel her like a warm light in his chest. Right now, she was calm, focused. But underneath that calm, there was worry. She was thinking about him. Tae-ho closed his eyes and tried to send her a feeling. It was strange, like trying to speak without words. He focused on reassurance, on calm, on the message. I'm okay. Somewhere across the stars, Lyra paused in the middle of a conversation with her guards. She felt something wash over her. Warmth, safety. Her eyes widened slightly, and she pressed her hand to her heart. He felt her. She smiled despite herself, then quickly made her face serious again. Her guards were watching. They could not know how strong the bond was becoming. Back on the Alliance ship, Taeho's door opened. Captain Park Yuna walked in. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been Taeho's commanding officer for 3 years. She was strict but fair, and she cared about her soldiers. How are you feeling? She asked. Confused, Taeho admitted. Scared, also hungry. They haven't brought food in 6 hours. Yuna sat down on a chair across from him. I'll have someone bring you a meal. As for the rest, I understand. This situation is complicated. That's one way to say it. Yuna leaned forward. Taeho, I need you to tell me everything. The Volition Empire is demanding answers. Emperor Doran himself has sent 3 separate messages to the Galactic Council. He wants to know how a human soldier ended up bonded to his daughter. Taeho told her everything. The crash, the wounded princess, the failed attempts at healing, the desperate decision to share his blood, and the consequences that followed. When he finished, Yuna was quiet for a long moment. You really didn't know what the ritual meant? She asked. I knew it involved sharing blood for healing. I didn't know it would create a permanent bond. The intelligence files we have on Volition culture are incomplete. That's an understatement. Yuna sighed. The Volisians have always been secretive. They don't share information about their sacred rituals with outsiders. So, what happens now? Yuna stood up and walked to the door. She stopped with her hand on the handle. The Volition Empire wants you handed over to them. They're calling you a criminal who violated their most sacred tradition. Taeho felt his stomach drop. And will the Alliance give me to them? Not yet. I'm fighting for you, Taeho. I've sent your complete service record to the Council. 18 rescue missions. 47 lives saved. 3 commendations for bravery. You're not a criminal. You're a hero who made a desperate choice to save a life. Will that be enough? Yuna finally looked at him. Her eyes were sad. I don't know. The Volisians are powerful. The Council doesn't want a war. If giving them 1 medic prevents a conflict, they might do it. After Yuna left, Taeho lay back on his bed and stared at the ceiling. He thought about his life. His childhood on Earth, his mother's small house near the ocean, the sound of waves in the morning, the smell of her cooking. He thought about joining the military, about learning to be a medic, about all the people he had saved over the years. He had never asked for thanks. He had never wanted glory. He just wanted to help Dot, and now helping someone might cost him everything. That night, something strange happened. Taeho fell asleep, and he dreamed. But the dream was not his own. He saw a grand palace made of white stone and silver metal. He saw gardens filled with flowers that glowed blue and purple. He saw a young girl with silver hair running through hallways, laughing Dot. Then the scene changed. The girl was older now, a teenager. She stood before a crowd of Volisians, her head bowed. An older man with cold eyes stood above her. He was speaking words of disappointment, words of shame. The girl did not cry, but inside she was breaking. Taeho felt her pain as if it was his own. It was loneliness, isolation, the weight of expectations she could never meet. He woke up with tears on his face. The bond was showing him her memories, her pain, the shadow she carried inside. For the first time, he truly understood. Princess Lyra was not just royalty. She was a person. A lonely person who had spent her whole life trying to earn love that was given conditionally. A person who had been taught that showing weakness was unacceptable. Taeho wiped his eyes. "I see you now," he whispered to the empty room. "I understand." Far away, on her father's warship, Lyra woke from her own sleep with a gasp. She had dreamed of Earth, of an ocean, of a small woman with kind eyes cooking food over a fire, of a young boy helping his mother carry water from a well. Even though his arms were tired, she had felt his love for that woman. His deep, pure love. Lyra sat up in her bed. Her heart was racing. The bond was connecting them in ways she had not expected. She was seeing his soul, and he was seeing hers. The door to her chamber opened. A tall man entered. He wore robes of deep black with gold trim. His face was hard and proud, with the same purple eyes as Lyra. "Father," she said. Emperor Doran looked at his daughter. His expression was unreadable. "The council has agreed to hand over the human. He will be brought to our capital in 5 days. Lyra felt fear flash through her. Not her own fear. His. Taeho had somehow heard these words through her ears. He knew what was coming. "What will you do with him?" she asked carefully. "That depends on him. And on you." The emperor walked closer. "Lyra, I need to know the truth. Did this human force himself upon you? Did he perform the ritual without your consent?" Lyra thought about this question carefully. The truth was complicated. Taeho had not asked permission. He had acted out of desperation to save her life. But she could not say this. If she told her father that the bond was accidental, that Taeho had not known what he was doing, it might make things worse. Her father would see it as an insult, a careless mistake that had stained the royal bloodline. But if she lied, if she said that Taeho had understood the ritual and performed it willingly, it would change everything. It would mean that a human had chosen to bond with a Valesian princess. It would be unprecedented, strange, but also, in some ways, acceptable. Lyra made her choice. "He saved my life, father," she said. He knew what the ritual was. He knew what it meant. And he did it anyway, because he would rather be bonded to a stranger forever than watch her die. The emperor stared at her for a long moment. Through the bond, Lyra felt Taeho's confusion. He did not understand why she was lying for him, but he trusted her. "This human," the emperor said slowly, "he truly understood the weight of the vow." "Yes," Lyra said. The lie came easily now. He understood. "And I have accepted the bond. It is done, father. Nothing can undo it." Emperor Doran closed his eyes. When he opened them again, some of the anger was gone. In its place was something else. Curiosity, perhaps. Or maybe just exhaustion. "Then I will meet this human myself," he said. "I will look into his eyes and see what kind of creature would tie his fate to my daughter." He turned and walked toward the door. At the entrance, he paused. "If he is worthy, he will live," the emperor said quietly. "If he is not, the bond will die with him, and you will feel every moment of his death." Then he was gone. Lyra sat alone in the darkness. Through the bond, she felt Taeho's presence. He was sending her something. Not words, but feelings, gratitude, and hope. She closed her eyes and sent her own message back. "We will face this together. I promise." The Galactic Council chamber was the largest room Taeho had ever seen. It was a perfect circle, with seats rising up in rings toward a domed ceiling made of glass. Through that glass, he could see stars and the swirling colors of a distant nebula. Representatives from dozens of species filled the seats, their faces a mix of curiosity, concern, and cold judgment. Taeho stood in the center of the room, alone. He wore his military uniform, clean and pressed. His hands were clasped behind his back. He kept his face calm, even though his heart was beating fast. Captain Park Yuna sat in the human delegation section. She gave him a small nod. "Stay strong," that nod said. "I'm fighting for you." The head of the council, an ancient being from a species called the Meridians, raised one of its 4 hands for silence. Its voice was deep and echoed through the chamber. "We are gathered to discuss the incident on Kestris 4. A human soldier, Kang Taeho, has performed the sacred Volition ritual known as the Vow of Eternity with Princess Lyra, daughter of Emperor Doran. The Volition Empire has demanded that this soldier be handed over to their custody." Murmurs filled the chamber. The Meridian raised its hand again. "Before we decide, we will hear from both parties. First, the representative of the Volition Empire." A tall Volition male stood up. He had the same pale blue skin and silver hair as Lyra, but his face was harsh and unfriendly. His name was Lord Salem, and Taeho had heard of him. He was one of the most powerful nobles in the Empire, and he hated humans more than most. "This human violated our most sacred tradition," Lord Salem said. His voice was like ice. "The vow of eternity is meant only for Volitions, for bonded pairs who have spent years proving their devotion, for family members who share blood and history. It is not meant for primitive creatures who have barely learned to walk among the stars." He pointed at Taeho with a long, pale finger. "This man touched our princess. He pressed his filthy blood against her pure form. He has stained the royal bloodline with his human corruption. The Volition Empire demands justice. We demand that this criminal be brought before Emperor Doran to face punishment for his crimes." The chamber was silent. Taeho felt the weight of hundreds of eyes pressing down on him. He wanted to speak, to defend himself, but he knew that interrupting would only make things worse. Captain Yuna stood up. "May I speak on behalf of the human delegation?" The Meridian nodded. "You may." Yuna walked to the center of the room and stood beside Taeho. She looked around the chamber with calm confidence. Kan Taeho is not a criminal. He is a combat medic with 18 successful rescue missions. He has saved 47 lives across 12 different species. He has 3 commendations for bravery and 0 marks of misconduct on his record. She paused and let those numbers sink in. On the day in question, Taeho's patrol discovered a crashed ship carrying Princess Lyra. She was dying. Her guards were dead. Standard medical treatments would not work on Volition physiology. Taeho made a choice. He used the only method he knew might save her life. He shared his blood. Lord Salem scoffed. "He claims ignorance? How convenient." "He did not claim ignorance," Yuna said firmly. "Princess Lyra herself has stated that Taeho understood the nature of the ritual. He made a conscious choice to bond himself to her rather than let her die." This caused another wave of murmurs. The Meridian leaned forward. "Is this true?" it asked. "The princess has confirmed this?" "Yes," Yuna said. "Princess Lyra submitted a formal statement to the council this morning. She states that Kan Taeho acted with full knowledge and that she has accepted the bond." Lord Salem's face twisted with anger. "This is ridiculous. A human cannot truly understand the vow. His blood is incompatible. The bond should not even be possible." "And yet it is," Yuna said quietly. "The bond is real. It is active. Both parties can feel it. This is not a matter of speculation. It is a matter of fact." The chamber fell silent again. The Meridian consulted with the other senior council members in a language Taiho did not understand. Finally, it turned back to face the room. The council has reached a decision. Kang Taeho will be transferred to Volition custody. However, he will not be treated as a criminal. He will be classified as a diplomatic ward under the protection of the Galactic Council. Lord Selim smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Furthermore, the Meridian continued, any harm done to Kang Taeho will be considered a violation of galactic law. The Volition Empire will be held responsible. The smile faded from Selim's face. The Council recognizes that this situation is unprecedented, the Meridian said. A bond between a human and a Volition has never occurred before. We will be watching closely to see how the Empire handles this matter. Emperor Doran, we trust you will act with wisdom and restraint. The session was over. Taeho was led out of the chamber by Volition guards. Their faces were cold and hard. None of them would look at him directly. Captain Yuna caught up to him before he reached the transport ship. She grabbed his arm. Taeho, be careful. I've done everything I can, but you're going into enemy territory now. I know, he said. The princess is on your side. Whatever happens, trust her. She lied to protect you. That means something. Taeho nodded. Through the bond, he could feel Lyra. She was close now, on the Volition flagship that waited just outside the council station. She was nervous, hopeful, afraid. I'll be okay, he said. I've survived worse. Yuna looked at him with sad eyes. No, you haven't. This is the Volition Empire. They've been running their civilization for 10,000 years. They have rules and traditions that humans can't even imagine. One wrong step, one wrong word, and they will destroy you. Then I won't make wrong steps. Taeho smiled slightly. I'm a medic, Captain. I'm used to walking carefully around dangerous situations. Yuna did not smile back. This isn't the battlefield. You can't save everyone here. Just focus on saving yourself. She released his arm and stepped back. The Volition guards pushed Taeho forward, toward the docking bay. He walked through the cold metal corridor and stepped onto the Volition transport ship. Inside, everything was white and silver. The air smelled strange, like flowers and metal mixed together. The guards led him to a seat and strapped him in. The ship launched. Through a small window, Taeho watched the council station grow smaller and smaller, until it was just a point of light among millions. He was entering the heart of an empire that hated his kind, but he was not afraid. Not completely, because he could feel her. Lyra. She was like a beacon in the darkness, growing brighter as the ship flew closer to her dot when the transport docked with the flagship. The door opened, and Taeho stepped out into a vast hangar bay. Hundreds of Volitions lined the walls, all of them staring at him with cold eyes. At the end of the bay, standing alone, was Princess Lyra. She wore a gown of deep purple and gold. Her silver hair was arranged in an elaborate style, decorated with small gems that caught the light. She looked beautiful and powerful and sad. Their eyes met across the distance. Through the bond, he felt her emotions rush into him. Relief, fear, hope, determination. He walked toward her. The crowd parted silently to let him pass. He could feel their hatred pressing against him like a physical weight, but he did not stop. He did not look away from her. When he reached her, they stood face to face. She was still taller than him. Her purple eyes looked down into his brown ones. Welcome to my world, Kang Taeho, she said. Her voice was formal, but through the bond, he felt her warmth. Thank you for having me, Princess Lyra, he said. Around them, the Volitions watched in cold silence. This was not a welcome. It was a test, but Taeho had survived tests before, and now he had someone beside him who understood his heart. That made all the difference. 2 months had passed as Teho arrived at the Volition capital. The city was called Aldris, and it was the most beautiful place he had ever seen. Towers of white stone and silver metal rose toward the sky, connected by bridges made of what looked like frozen light. Gardens floated between buildings, held up by technology so advanced that it seemed like magic. The air was always clean and cool, with a faint scent of the strange flowers that grew everywhere. But beauty did not mean kindness. The Volisians treated Teho with cold politeness at best and open hostility at worst. Servants refused to look at him. Nobles walked past him as if he did not exist. Guards followed him everywhere, watching his every move. He was given a room in the palace, but it was in a distant wing, far from the royal family. The message was clear. He was tolerated, not accepted. Only Lyra treated him differently. She visited him every day, sometimes for hours. At first, they talked about practical things. She taught him about Volisian customs, their history, their laws. She explained which nobles were dangerous and which might be persuaded to tolerance. She warned him about the foods that would make him sick and the gestures that were considered insults. But over time, their conversations changed. They began to share more personal things. Stories from their childhoods. Dreams they had never told anyone. Fears they had hidden for years. One evening, Lyra brought him something wrapped in silver cloth. "What is this?" Teho asked. "A gift," she said. "Open it." He unwrapped the cloth carefully. Inside was a small wooden box. When he opened the box, he found a collection of dried leaves and a strange metal cup with holes in the bottom. "It is called Theres," Lyra explained. "A traditional Volisian drink. You steep the leaves in hot water, like your human tea, but the taste is different, sweeter, more complex." Teho smiled. "You're teaching me to appreciate Volisian things." "You have been teaching me about human things," she said. "It is only fair." This was true. Over the past weeks, Teho had shared many aspects of human culture with Lyra. He had told her about music, about art, about the way humans celebrated births and mourned deaths. He had hummed songs his mother used to sing. He had described the taste of food that he missed, the spice of kimchi, the warmth of rice, the sweet sourness of the fruit that grew near his childhood home. Lyra was fascinated by all of it. The Volisians valued perfection, control, and tradition. Humans were messy and emotional and unpredictable. Their art was imperfect. Their music was chaotic. Their food was overwhelming. And yet, there was something beautiful in that chaos. "Your people laugh so easily," Lyra said one day. They were sitting in a garden on the palace grounds, hidden from prying eyes by a wall of blue flowers. "Do Volisians not laugh?" Teho asked. "We do, but it is rare. Laughter is seen as a loss of control, a moment of weakness." Teho shook his head. "That seems sad to me. Laughter is one of the best things about being alive." "Show me," Lyra said. "Make me laugh." Teho thought for a moment. Then he told her about a time when he was young, and he had tried to cook a meal for his mother. He had burned everything. The smoke had filled the house. His mother had come running in, thinking there was a fire, and found him standing in the middle of the kitchen, covered in black soot, holding a pan that was completely destroyed. "She was not angry?" Lyra asked. "No, she laughed until she cried. And then she took me to a restaurant and bought me the biggest meal I had ever seen." Lyra tried to imagine this. A mother who laughed at failure instead of punishing it. A family where mistakes were met with love instead of disappointment. Through the bond, Teho felt her longing, her sadness. He understood now why she had been so alone. Her family valued perfection. Every failure was remembered. Every weakness was judged. "You can laugh now, you know," he said gently. No one is watching. Lyra hesitated. Then, slowly, she let out a small sound. It was not quite a laugh, but it was close. Her lips curved upward, and her purple eyes brightened. That felt strange, she admitted. Good strange or bad strange? I am not sure. Perhaps both. They sat together in comfortable silence. Through the bond, their emotions flowed back and forth like a gentle tide. Curiosity, warmth, something deeper that neither of them wanted to name yet. Days turned into weeks. Tejo began to find his place in the palace. He was still an outsider, but he was no longer completely alone. Some of the younger Valesians began to approach him with curious questions. What was Earth like? How did humans survive without advanced technology? Why did they choose to feel emotions so strongly instead of controlling them? Tejo answered all their questions patiently. He did not try to convince them that humans were superior. He simply showed them that humans were different, and that difference was not always bad. Lyra noticed the change. More importantly, she felt it through the bond. Tejo was not angry or bitter about his treatment. He met coldness with patience. He met hostility with quiet strength. He did not demand respect. He earned it slowly, one small interaction at a time. You are changing things, she told him one night. They were standing on a balcony overlooking the city. The twin moons of the Valesian homeworld hung low in the sky, casting silver light over everything. I'm not trying to change anything, Tejo said. I'm just trying to survive. But you are changing things anyway. People are talking about you. Not just with hatred now. With curiosity. Some of them are even saying good things. Tejo shrugged. I'm just being myself. If that changes things, then maybe things needed to change. Lyra looked at him for a long moment. Through the bond, he felt her emotions shifting. There was admiration there. And something else. Something warmer and more dangerous. I need to tell you something, she said quietly. What is it? The bond. It is growing stronger. Much stronger than I expected. Usually, newly bonded pairs take years to develop this level of connection. But with us, it has happened in weeks. Is that bad? I do not know. It is unusual. Perhaps it is because we are different species. Perhaps human emotions are simply stronger than Valesian ones, and they are feeding the bond faster. Tejo thought about this. He had noticed the bond growing too. He could feel Lyra's presence constantly now, like a second heartbeat in his chest. When she was happy, he felt it. When she was sad, he felt it. Sometimes he could even catch glimpses of her thoughts, like whispers in the back of his mind. Does it bother you? He asked, being connected to me this way? Lyra shook her head slowly. No, I thought it would. I thought I would resent you for trapping me in this bond. But I do not. When I feel your presence, I feel calm, safe, like I am not alone for the first time in my life. She turned to face him fully. Her purple eyes were shining. I am glad you saved me, Kang Tejo. I am glad we are bonded. Whatever comes next, I want you to know that. Tejo reached out and took her hand. Her fingers were cool against his warm skin. Their blood had mixed once, red and silver, human and Valesian. Now their souls were mixing too, slowly becoming something new. I'm glad too, he said. They stood together on the balcony, watching the moons rise higher in the sky. Below them, the city of Aldris glittered like a field of stars. Somewhere in that city, enemies were plotting. Somewhere, hatred was growing. But in that moment, none of it mattered. They had each other, and for now, that was enough. The diplomatic summit was held in the Grand Hall of Aldris, the largest and most beautiful room in the palace. Representatives from 20 different species had gathered to discuss trade agreements and territorial disputes. Emperor Doan sat on his throne at the head of the hall, watching everything with his cold purple eyes. Taiho stood near the back of the room, wearing formal clothes that Lyra had chosen for him. They were Velizian in style, white and silver, but cut to fit his human body. He felt uncomfortable and out of place, but he kept his face calm. Lyra stood near her father, dressed in the royal colors of purple and gold. She was playing her role perfectly, the graceful princess, polite and cold. But through the bond, Taiho could feel her tension. Something was wrong. She did not know what, but her instincts were screaming at her. He tried to send her a question through the bond. What is it? She sent back confusion, uncertainty, danger. Then it happened. One of the servants walked toward Lyra, carrying a tray of drinks. Taiho had seen hundreds of servants in the palace. This one looked no different. But something made him focus on this particular servant. Something about the way he moved. Too stiff. Too careful. The servant reached Lyra and offered her a drink. She took it politely and raised it to her lips. Taiho felt a flash of wrongness through the bond. Not from Lyra, from himself. Every instinct he had developed over years of combat was screaming, "Stop!" He shouted. The entire hall went silent. Every eye turned to him. Lyra froze with the drink halfway to her mouth. The servant did not freeze. He moved in one smooth motion. He dropped the tray and drew a blade from his sleeve. He lunged at Lyra, the blade aimed at her heart. Taiho ran. He moved faster than he had ever moved before. The bond seemed to push him, lending him strength and speed he did not know he had. He crossed the distance between them in seconds, shoving Lyra aside and putting his body between her and the assassin. The blade meant for Lyra's heart sank into Taiho's shoulder instead. Pain exploded through him, but he did not stop. He grabbed the assassin's arm and twisted. Bones broke. The assassin screamed and fell, but there were more. Doors around the hall burst open and armed soldiers poured in. They wore the armor of the royal guard, but Taiho knew instantly that they were not loyal to the emperor. They were traitors. "Protect the emperor!" someone shouted. The real guards rushed to form a barrier around Emperor Dora, but no one protected Lyra. Taiho pulled the blade from his shoulder, ignoring the fresh wave of pain. Blood, red human blood, poured down his arm. He stepped in front of Lyra and faced the approaching soldiers. "Stay behind me," he said. "You're hurt," Lyra gasped. Through the bond, she felt his pain as if it were her own. "I've been hurt before. Stay behind me." 10 soldiers approached. They were armored. They were trained. They were Velizians, physically stronger and faster than any human. Taiho was one man with a stolen knife and a wounded shoulder. He did not care. The first soldier reached him and swung a blade in a wide arc. Taiho ducked under the swing and drove his knife into the gap between the soldier's armor plates. The soldier fell. The second soldier attacked from the left. Taiho blocked with his wounded arm, feeling the pain nearly blind him, and struck back with a kick to the knee. The soldier collapsed. The third and fourth attacked together. Taiho moved between them, using one as a shield against the other. He was not as strong as them. He was not as fast. But he was trained for chaos. He was trained for impossible situations. More importantly, he was fighting for someone he loved. The bond flared between them, and Lyra felt it. She felt everything. His determination, his courage, his willingness to die for her. And underneath all of it, she felt something that made her heart stop. Love. He loved her. Not because of the bond. Not because he was forced to. He loved her because of who she was. Every moment they had shared, every conversation, every laugh, every quiet evening watching the moons rise. He had fallen in love with her, truly and completely. Lyra had never felt anything like this before. The Volitions did not love the way humans did. Their affection was controlled, measured, based on duty and tradition. But this was different. This was wild and pure and overwhelming. And she realized, standing there in the chaos, that she felt the same way. "Taeho!" she screamed. He had brought down 5 soldiers, but 5 more were closing in. He was slowing down. His wounded shoulder was failing him. Blood covered the floor beneath his feet. Lord Selim stepped through the crowd of traitor soldiers. He was smiling, his pale face twisted with satisfaction. "Foolish human," he said. "Did you really think you could protect her? You are nothing. A primitive creature who was never meant to touch Volition blood." Taeho did not respond. He was saving his breath, his strength. "Kill him," Lord Selim ordered. "Then take the princess. The Emperor will soon follow." The remaining soldiers raised their weapons. Lyra moved. She did not know she was going to move until she was already doing it. She pushed past Taeho and stood between him and the soldiers. Her hands rose, and silver light began to glow around them. "Princess, no," Lord Selim said, his smile fading. "You cannot. I am a daughter of the royal bloodline," Lyra said. Her voice was cold and powerful. "Did you forget what that means?" The glow around her hands intensified. Silver energy crackled through the air. This was the power of the Volition royal family, an ancient gift passed down through generations. The power to control energy itself. Lyra had never used it in combat. She had been trained to keep it hidden, to use it only in ceremonies. But now, facing the enemies who would kill the man she loved, she let it free. Light exploded outward. The soldiers were thrown back like leaves in a storm. Their weapons melted in their hands. Their armor cracked and fell away. When the light faded, only Lord Selim remained standing, and he was no longer smiling. "This is treason," Lyra said. Her voice echoed through the hall. "You have betrayed the Empire. You have attacked the royal family, and you have tried to kill the man I have bonded with." She stepped toward him, silver light still dancing around her hands. "The vow of eternity is sacred. You called it corruption when a human entered it. But I say the corruption is yours. Your hatred, your pride, your belief that other species are beneath us." Lord Selim fell to his knees. His face was pale with fear. "This human saved my life. He offered his blood without hesitation. He has lived among us for months, facing your hatred every day, and he never once responded with hatred of his own. He met cruelty with patience. He met anger with kindness. That is not the behavior of a primitive creature. That is the behavior of a noble soul." She stopped directly in front of the kneeling lord. "You are unworthy to judge him, and you will never hurt him again." Behind her, Taeho finally collapsed. The blood loss was too great. His vision went dark, and he fell to the floor. The last thing he heard was Lyra screaming his name. The last thing he felt was her love, pouring through the bond like sunlight. Then, there was nothing but darkness. Taeho woke slowly, like rising from deep water. Everything was blurry at first. The colors were wrong, too bright, too silver. He blinked several times, trying to focus. A face appeared above him. Purple eyes, silver hair, beautiful. "Lyra," he whispered. His voice was rough and weak. "You are awake." Her voice shook with relief. Through the bond, he felt her joy flooding into him like warm sunlight. "You have been sleeping for 3 days. I was beginning to fear you would never wake." Taeho tried to sit up, but his body refused. Pain shot through his shoulder, and he fell back against the soft bed. "Do not move," Lyra said. She placed a gentle hand on his chest. "You almost died. The blade that struck you was poisoned. A poison designed to kill slowly and painfully. Our healers barely saved you." "I don't remember much," Taeho admitted. "There were soldiers. You use some kind of power. Lyra nodded. The gift of the royal bloodline. I had never used it in combat before. But when I saw them closing in on you, when I felt your determination through the bond, I could not hold back any longer. You saved me. You saved me first, many times. She smiled slightly. We seemed to make a habit of saving each other. Tejo finally managed a weak laugh. It hurt, but it was worth it. Over the next few days, he recovered slowly. The poison left his system, and his wound began to heal. Lyra visited him constantly, bringing food and medicine and stories about what had happened while he slept. Lord Selim had been arrested along with the other conspirators. The investigation revealed that he had been planning the coup for years. He had convinced a faction of nobles that the Emperor was too soft on other species, that the Valesian Empire should return to its older ways of isolation and domination. The bond between Lyra and a human had been the final insult that pushed him to act. But his plan had failed. Thanks to Tejo's warning and Lyra's power, the assassination attempt was stopped. Emperor Doran was alive. The traitors were captured, and Lord Selim had been sentenced to death. I do not feel joy about his execution, Lyra told Tejo quietly. He was cruel and hateful, but he was also a product of our culture. We taught him that other species were lesser. We taught him that purity of blood mattered more than quality of character. Cultures can change, Tejo said. Yes, and I intend to help change ours. 1 week after Tejo woke, Emperor Doran came to visit him. The Emperor entered the room alone, without guards or attendants. He was tall and imposing, with the same purple eyes as his daughter. But his face, usually so cold and unreadable, held something different today. Tejo tried to rise from his bed, but the Emperor raised his hand. Stay. You are still healing. Tejo remained seated but straightened his back as much as he could. He met the Emperor's eyes without looking away. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. I watched the recordings from the summit. Emperor Doran finally said, I saw what you did. You threw yourself between my daughter and an assassin's blade. You fought 10 soldiers while bleeding from a poisoned wound. You did not run. You did not hesitate. She is bonded to me, Tejo said simply. Her life is my life. I could never let her die. The bond forces loyalty, the Emperor said, but it does not force love. Tejo was silent. He did not know what to say. The Emperor continued. When? My daughter was brought back to me from that crashed ship. I was furious. A human had touched her. A human had mingled his blood with hers. I wanted to kill you. I wanted to break the bond and watch you die. I know, Tejo said, but Lyra protected you. She lied for you, said you understood the ritual fully. She begged me to give you a chance. I agreed only because I had no choice. The bond could not be broken without killing her, and I would never harm my daughter. The Emperor paused, his expression softening almost imperceptibly. But over these months, I have watched you. I have seen how you conduct yourself among my people. You have faced hatred and hostility every day, and you have never once complained. You have been patient. You have been kind. You have shown more dignity than many Valesians who were born to nobility. He stepped closer to the bed. And then, at the summit, you proved yourself beyond any doubt. You could have run. You could have saved yourself. But you chose to fight. You chose to bleed. You chose to die, if necessary, for my daughter's sake. Emperor Doran did something that Tejo had never expected. He bowed his head slightly. I was wrong about you, Can Tejo. I was wrong about your kind. You are not primitive. You are not lesser. You are simply different. And now I see that different can be worthy of respect. Tejo did not know what to say. He felt tears threatening to form in his eyes, but he held them back. Thank you, Emperor. Do not thank me. I should be thanking you. You saved my daughter's life. Not once, but twice. You have shown my empire that there is more to humans than we believed. And you have reminded me that I still have much to learn, even after 10,000 years of history." He straightened and looked at Taiho with clear eyes. "The bond between you and Lyra is now formally recognized by the Empire. You are no longer a diplomatic ward or a prisoner. You are a member of the royal household. You will be treated with the same respect as any Volosian noble." Taiho's heart swelled with emotion. Through the bond, he felt Lyra's joy exploding like fireworks. She must have been listening from somewhere nearby. "Furthermore," the Emperor continued, "I am ordering a formal review of our policies toward humanity. We have been too harsh, too quick to judge. It is time for that to change." The door opened, and Lyra rushed in. She crossed the room in seconds and threw her arms around Taiho, careful not to press against his wounded shoulder. "You did it," she whispered. "You changed everything. We did it," Taiho corrected. Together, Emperor Doran watched them with an unreadable expression. Then, slowly a small smile crossed his face. He nodded once and left the room, giving them privacy. 3 months later, Lyra stood before the Galactic Council. Taiho stood beside her, his shoulder fully healed, wearing the formal white and silver robes of the Volosian royal household. "I speak today on behalf of the Volosian Empire," Lyra said. Her voice echoed through the great chamber. "For too long, we have isolated ourselves from the younger species of this galaxy. We have looked down on them. We have dismissed them. We have refused to see their worth." She paused and looked at Taiho. "But one human changed that. One human showed me that strength is not measured in years of civilization or advancement of technology. Strength is measured in the courage to do what is right, in the willingness to sacrifice for others, in the capacity to love without condition." She turned back to the council. "Kang Taiho saved my life with his blood. He bound himself to me forever to keep me alive. And in doing so, he taught an entire empire to hope. He taught us that different does not mean lesser, that strange does not mean wrong." She raised her head high. "Today, the Volosian Empire officially opens full diplomatic relations with Earth and the human species. We invite humanity to join us as partners in building a better galaxy, not as subordinates, not as curiosities, as equals." The chamber erupted in applause. Representatives from dozens of species rose to their feet. Even the ancient Meridian inclined its head in respect. Taiho watched it all with wonder. He, a simple combat medic from a small house near the ocean, had helped change the course of history. Lyra took his hand. Their fingers intertwined, and through the bond, their emotions merged into one shared feeling. Love, hope, joy. "You never did ask what you were getting into," she whispered. He smiled. "I knew enough. You needed saving. And you saved me. You saved me too," he said. "More than you know." They stood together, hand in hand, human and Volosian, as the applause continued around them. Two people from different worlds, connected by blood and bound by love. The vow of eternity had promised that their bond could never be broken. Looking at her now, Taiho knew that he would never want it to be. This was not an ending. It was a beginning. And whatever came next, they would face it together. Always.